I know it was something that people had been asking for, and we'll see how this goes. And I'm open to improving it and making it better. You know, it's just we have to start somewhere. I'm so thrilled at the number of people who are interested in being involved in RLI. It has been an incredible couple of months. The support at the district level is actually, it's a bit overwhelming, to be completely and totally honest. Just to give some people some history, for those of you that had the privilege of knowing Al Bergesma, he was really the instrumental force behind Leadership Institute in this district. Unfortunately, he passed. It's been actually almost a couple of years now, and we never really recovered from that loss. So it's taken us this long to reorganize ourselves, re-energize the people involved, and really put a strategy so that we can continue to deliver this really important program in the district. So I'm just hoping everyone can see the PowerPoint presentation again. The challenges of hosting a webinar is I have no way of knowing, unless I get feedback from you, whether or not you can or can't see this materials. So I am your host. Welcome everybody. My name is Tamara. I'm actually with the Calgary Rotary Club of Millennium. I know I said that all mixed up, but that's where I've been. I've been involved with Leadership Institute, I'm going to say for 6 years now. I've been a trainer for 6 years, and recently Rick asked me if I would step up and take over in the very, very fill big shoes of Al Bergesma. I said I'll do my best. Currently doing a PhD, so I am insanely, I don't know why I do what I do, but I love it, but I'm insanely busy, so I'm really appreciative of things like this because it gives me a break from all the academic work. So just a few administrative slides. Oh, Manon, I love you. I just saw your comment. I'm not awesome. I'm a complete mess. So the administrative comments are we're recording, so you can go back and review this time after time. You can, sleep with it playing in the background or watch it with your kids if you so desire. I'm completely being sarcastic, of course, but we are recording it so that we can archive it, and as new people come along, hopefully they can review this material and they'll feel comfortable and confident sort of preparing to facilitate this. We're going to model what we do in Leadership Institute. This will really be what you put into it. I'm going to do things a little bit differently, I think, than other webinars. This will be interactive, so I may just unmute everybody and see how it goes, and may mute a few people that maybe they don't have headsets or they're typing on their computers. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. But it really will be what you put into it. There'll be a short evaluation that will be sent after the webinar. That's what this thing says it'll do, so hopefully you'll get it, and if you don't, just let me know and I can send something to you. And I really want everybody to have fun. We're spending, an hour and a bit together. And, I know people have better things to do than sitting in front of their computers listening to a training session, so let's try and make the best of it. Please feel free to chat. I'm going to go through the technology if you're going, how can you chat? But please feel free to do it, and I'll try and answer as much as I can as we go along. So the agenda, I'm going to start with a poll, and the reason I'm going to do that, and I don't know if I can see both screens, but let's see, we're going to try. I want to know how familiar, it says it's closed. Okay, I tested it. Here's the poll. You're not going to be able to participate in it because I tested it and it closed it. But I want to know how familiar you are with GoToTraining. So what I'm going to ask everybody to do is everybody who is familiar with GoToTraining to put their hand up. If you don't know how to do that, that just means you're not familiar with GoToTraining. And If you don't know, go to training. Just keep your hand down. Okay, so from what I can see, Fran indicated that she's familiar, Manon indicated she's familiar, Marianne and Leslie all indicated. So the rest of you are not. Okay, that's fine. So we'll come back to this agenda in a second. But what I'd like to do is I want to explain the technology so that you all know how to use it. So hopefully you have a box that looks sort of like this. It'll be somewhere on your computer. Does anybody not have a box that looks like that? Please put up your hand if you don't have one. Okay, Carol doesn't have one. Marianne doesn't have one. Okay, so could you check in behind your screens? It could be hiding somewhere. It could be a thin, can you see my mouse when I go like this, everybody? I'm going to take everybody actually off mute. I'll just do this and see what happens. Let's see. Unmute. Unmute. Okay, so you should all be off of mute. So for those of you that don't have this screen, have you found it now? You can say yes or no. I should be able to hear you.
Yes. No,
okay.
I'm on an iPad. I don't know if that makes a difference.
It sure will. You're going to have a totally different experience, unfortunately. So we'll have to take it offline. But for the most part, at the bottom of your iPad, you'll have the ability, should say chat. And I can't remember off the top of my head what some of the other options are, but you will have a chat function on your iPad, but I think that's about it.
Yeah, I think that is.
Okay, so you don't get the full experience, but for everybody else, somebody's trying myself. Okay, so that's the kind of stuff that happens when you unmute everybody. But anyway, we'll continue on. So if you have this, you can toggle through some of the abilities to change things in that panel. So for example, the audio function, you can see it's right underneath the webcam settings. So you can determine or find out what your audio is actually, if you're using computer audio or a phone call. When you're talking, you'll see that microphone, I guess the number of boxes will fill in. That means that you've got good sounding audio. You also can see your speakers on there as well. So you'll want to check that, and you'll notice while you're talking, it'll go up and down. So you want those things to go. The also thing too, there's the microphone and the checking speaker. I just went through that with you, so you should be able to find that too. If you want to know who's attending the webinar, if you go under attendees, it'll tell you, there should say 11 out of 52. 52 just means the number of spots that we have. We actually have 15 people who register, but I know several of you are actually buddying on other computers, so that the number will actually be less. Marianne, you have a question again?
No, I'm just trying to figure out.
Okay. And Hal, do you have a question either, or are you just playing around? Okay, I'm going to assume you're just playing around. And okay, just having fun, no worries, it's all good. Okay, so, and I want you to do that. So if I stop and question it and you, don't worry, it's all good, because I want you guys to become very familiar with this. So that's the attendee, and then the infamous chat. I believe that's the next slide. Yes, so the chat function, you can see it's at the end okay. of the display, and it says type a message here. So when you type, you want to check with the to box, because it'll save the entire audience. So if you say, you know, Tamara sucks, you know, or suck it, everybody can see it. Or if you just want to send a private message, I'm just going to send a message to Carol. None of you will be able to see it, only Carol will be able to. So play around with that. You can do that throughout the call. If you have questions, you can put them there. If you just want to talk to one of your colleagues, you can do that too. But that's basically the functionality. of this program. There's lots of other things that we can do. You can go into breakout groups and a whole bunch of other things, but I'm not going to try and do that tonight just because we want to get through some of these module components. We'll have some fun in the next ones. Okay, David, you got it. That's a good job. Okay, so we're going to talk, this is sort of the rest of the agenda. So we're going to do a couple of polls and then we're going to dive right into the module topics. And then we're going to go through a what if scenario kind of conversation and talk about next steps. So that's sort of, I guess, the agenda for tonight. If anybody has anything else they want to add, just throw it in the chat box and we'll see if we can cover it. But a couple of things before the module starts, meaning, so for example, High River, you folks are going to be starting your own pod, which is really, really exciting. And, you know, you're going to be looking at after several of the different functions of you know, doing RLI in actually High River. One of the things you should really do is appoint a group leader. Just to make sure that someone is keeping everybody on track. So, you know, have the binders been ordered, has the food been ordered, has the room been booked, like all those little nitty-bitty things. Appoint a group leader so that person can just sort of be in charge of pulling everybody together in meetings, and you can organize yourself however you decide. I don't know if one of you folks from High River want to share about how you're doing that. Have you appointed a group leader?
I think that's Marianne.
Yeah, I think it is too, but so what is Marianne? So Marianne is the glue that's holding you together?
I probably need to appoint somebody. I mean, I'll do it this year or at least for the first part of the year to get us up and going, but we've got the food in the room. Talk to you about the binders. I don't know about that one yet. We'll have to figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. So, but it's very important because there's lots of moving parts. You do also want to have, especially that group leader, to start to schedule a meeting with your team. So, for example, we have two pending modules. One is in Cochrane on Saturday this weekend. So this is sort of in lieu of, not in lieu of, but most of the people that are actually facilitating in Cochrane on Saturday are on the call tonight. So hopefully we can talk about some of the things that we'll be covering in the module. But we also have, on October 1st, we have a Module 1 in Calgary. And so I believe some of the people that are teaching or facilitating, pardon me, are also here tonight. So one of the takeaways is schedule a meeting with that team and talk about the different topics and what you're going to go through. It just makes the day a lot smoother. You want to make sure that you're emailing your participants a couple of weeks prior to the module to ask them if they have any allergies. You want to confirm your catering numbers and dietary issues. So we have a contact at the Rotary Challenger Park, and I listed it here for those of you in Calgary. You want to send a reminder 1 week prior with an agenda, a digital copy of the participant guide, and of course directions on how to get to wherever you're hosting. Then you want to pick up the RLI bucket, and that's mostly if you're in Calgary, but some of the other areas may also have a bucket that you share amongst the group of facilitators. So make sure you have, you know, your extension cords, your LCD projector, your module handouts, your evaluations, all those kinds of pieces. And if you're doing Module 3, your graduation certificates and your pins. So Lethbridge, you have a Module 3. The date is escaping me, but I believe it's in November. And so you want to get some Module 3 pens. Fran, did you want to say something?
I just was going to say, I think it's the 19th.
Thank you. So November 19th. So you'll just have to, somebody on your team will just have to remember, get RLI graduation pins, right?
Okay.
So it's just all those little detail things like I mentioned. The other thing too is you want to make sure you print off a payment and attendee list. And why we do that is because the day of people come and pay. So most people pay using credit card, but not everyone. Some people want their club invoiced, and some people pay cash, and some people pay check. And some people also don't show up. So that little attendee list is the only actual record of what happens the day you do the module. So If you fill that out and then, of course, get that back, we can make sure that we record that information for all the district statistics we have to do. We're always asked by the district governors how many people have participated. If they go to a specific club, they want to know who from the club has participated, who hasn't, those kinds of things. So getting that information back to me is really important and really appreciated. Okay, so the day of the module, you want to arrive around 8 o'clock to set up, unless you've chosen a different time to start. So basically 1 hour before you start, because you probably have to set up tables, chairs, the binders, the brochures, the evaluations, the flyers, and the LCD in the computer. And that'll depend on where you are and what you're doing. And then, of course, you want to collect payment and confirm attendance, and, of course, write receipts, and, probably put all those materials back in the box when you're complete. And then you also want to collect your completed evaluations and put them in the box so that they can be evaluated. I just got a question. Where do we find the payment and attendee list? That's a great question, Leslie. So each pod leader should be given, if you don't already, have access to the our Rotary Club Runner, the back end of it. So you go to Rotary District 5360.ca, and when you log in, you should be able to go in and actually pull the date that you're training or facilitating. So Leslie, for example, for you, I'll get that information to you until we figure out, who your leader is, and then I'll make sure that person has access, and then they'll be responsible for it. But in the meantime, it'll be me. So for Marianne, for example, for you guys, you should have access to that back end of the district website. You click on, excuse me, and does everybody know what I'm talking about? Because I can pull it up. So if I do District 5360, if I go back to screen sharing, and if I put this up, okay, so can everybody see that website now?
No.
I have to go to.
Yep.
You can,
Now
everybody? Okay, great, thank you. All right, so if, just bear with me while I log in here. But you log in, and you will get, whenever this happens, you go into your member area, and then what you should be able to do, again, if you don't have access, just let me know. I'll get it for you because it's important. But this is where you will theoretically, once you get going, put all of your RLI dates and open it up for registration. So all of our RLI dates are usually under the events tab, and it's the event planner. So you go into this section, and what you'll see is, again, when the page loads, it's just slow because I'm running the go-to meeting at the same time, and I live in the country, so my internet sucks. So when it loads, you'll see it will list every single, here it is here, so it'll list every single event happening in the district. So I'm going to use the Cochrane Banff as an example. So you click on here and it gives you a summary of the event. It gives you who's sort of organizing it, where it is. All of this information was loaded by me about a year ago once we knew the dates. So under reports, it gives you, a registered attendee summary and a detail list and the alphabetical list of attendees. You can register people, members and non-members. You can download your attendee list and download your payment report. So I was speaking about the payment report, but you want to be able to go in here. When you click on this link, it'll download it into an Excel file. You just open up the Excel file and print it. So does that make sense for everybody? Let's go back to the chat. I can't see everything, but everybody can talk, right? So everybody's good? Perfect. Oh, thanks, Leslie. I just saw that check. I can't do both things at the same time, if you can believe it. Screen sharing. They close all the things when you do this. Okay, going back to the presentation. You should just be able to see the presentation now. Hope so. Okay, so then you want to collect the evaluations and make sure they're all filled out, put them in the box or the envelope or whatever mechanism you have for collecting it, and make sure you, of course, have fun and kick butt. Okay,
Mm.
So after the module, you of course want to have a couple beers, put your feet up, maybe a glass of wine, whatever your vice is. Um, the LCD projectors right now, my understanding is we only have one, and it's mine. Lethbridge, Fran, you have access to an LCD. I know you've
Yeah,
used it before.
yeah. I
Yeah.
own I
So
own one, so we're good.
okay.
Yeah,
So that, but it's your LCD, right?
yeah.
Okay. I just want to make an inventory, so that's what I'm writing down. Does anybody else have an LCD projector that they plan on using? Okay. So what that tells me is High River, I need to get you guys one right away, unless you have that capability in your facility.
I don't know. I'll check with the facility. They might have, yes.
Okay, but
Um,
I
I
think
may have to get you one.
we have a I know we had one several years ago, so it's still kicking around, I'm sure.
Okay. So just let me
Okay, we'll get
know.
back to you, Tamara.
And okay, no, that sounds good. And then as we grow into other jurisdictions, we'll have to make sure we get one. I'd like to get one for Calgary because I'm not sure. I don't know. I haven't decided. But, if anything happens to your own personal LCD projector, it's kind of bad, right? So we'll have to figure something out. But I just want to know how many are out there. So thank you. Okay, so that's after the module. So I wanted to go through all of those things just because we have a couple of coming up, but also, just to remind everybody about the little itty bits and pieces of hosting a module. But you literally heard me repeat for Module 2 and Module 3, and once you get into the hang of it, you're good to go. So are there any questions about any of those items? Well, okay. So I'm going to do a quick poll. Everybody should be able to see the poll now. So if you want to select which pod you're representing, just want to get an idea of where everybody's coming from. And I can see people are changing their minds. Things are fluctuating. We got 90% voted. My understanding is I don't wait until everybody finishes. For that 10% that haven't voted, oh, we're at 100. I was just going to say you suck. But we all voted. Okay, so we have Calgary Airdrie Chestermere with 50% of the call. We've got our lovely folks from High River, and we've got our Lethbridge Pincher Creek for Cloud Group. That's awesome. This was a trick question because we don't have anybody in any pod for Medicine Hat, Swift Current, Kindersley, or Brooks yet. So, okay, that's great. Yeah, we need to add that probably this year, but that's another call. Okay, so, but thank you. Glad you're all here. So I can hide the results. And then the next question, because this leads sort of, there's two things that I want to find out. So this is with respect to your skill as a facilitator or your perceived skill. So, let me know which statement applies to you.
Well, I guess we'll go here.
Yeah, where'd you go, Fran? Professor Fran.
Yeah. Well, I probably could count them, but.
Okay, and actually I should say that I might recognize people's voices, but maybe if anybody that's speaking, if they could say their voice, who they are, before they speak for everybody else, I think that would probably be really helpful. Okay, so we're going to show the results. Okay, so 40% of you have facilitated so many modules you've lost count. Awesome, because I'm going to be really relying on you folks for the rest of the call. I've facilitated a few modules, okay? I am scheduled to facilitate in the next few months, okay? So that's leading me to believe that you may not have done any, and I'm not scheduled, but I want to be. Okay, whoever that person is, please send me a private message so I can get you into some of these awesome classes that we're doing. Okay, so thank you for that. I'm going to hide the results, and then the next question I have, and I want everybody to remember this, but I am really curious in what topics you're interested in facilitating for this module. This is going to help structure the rest of the webinar. I had to squish engaging members and creating service projects in one because go-to training only allows you 5 boxes. So sorry about that if that's where you are, but I just want to get an idea of where everybody is so we can figure it out. Okay, share results. All right. Okay, so we have pretty much, all right, so our foundation, we might leave that one till the end, but it looks like we have a pretty good distribution of interest in all the other areas. Okay, so thank you for that. I'll just close this and we can get going. All right.
Tomorrow?
So the next, yes.
Is Harry,
Go ahead. Please.
Since we are sharing a computer,
Yes.
most of the comments go twice.
Ah, you are an engineer, aren't you? Okay, well then we'll go through it all. Are you saying that you really wanted to do foundation?
No, I did. He didn't.
Oh, you did. Okay, all right. Well, we'll go through them all from beginning to end. So, okay, so I'm curious if you all have, I'm going to get rid of the polls. Do you all have a materials tab?
Do we have a what?
A materials tab.
David, yes.
I'm not sure what you said.
Okay, so under, like on your control panel, there should be a section, it's called materials. It's under webcam. No? Getting some giggles. It's okay if you don't, because I included all the
I can't
materials.
I can't find it.
You can't find it? That's okay. So what I want to make sure, if you all completed your homework, you would have used the faculty guide and the participant guide to go through the materials. So the faculty guide looks like what's on your screen right now. So make sure you have that in front of you. And I actually just pulled it up, which is good. Okay, so where we're going to start, I wanted to bring everybody's attention to RLIfiles.com. I'm just going to go through this. RLIfiles.com. Shoulder to the website. Okay, so everybody should see the RLIfiles.com website right now. You'll see resources part 1, resources part 2, resources part 3, and archives. I wouldn't even waste your time in the archives, but ironically, part 1 is RLI 1, part 2 is RLI 2, and part 3 is part 3, module 3. So we're going to spend most of our time in part 1. If you haven't been here, everything you need to know is in here. So there's English, there's tons of different languages, but for the most part, you know, this little section here at the beginning. So leadership characteristics, these are some different resources that you can use. Rotary Beyond the Club, again, you know, the different resources that you can use, and it continues on and on. So keep this open as well if you haven't viewed it already. And just going to go back to the presentation. This is actually working pretty good, this little go-to training thingy program. Okay, so we're going to start with insights into leadership. So raise your hand if you said that this was an area that you would like to facilitate. Okay. So Carol, David, Manal, and Catherine. Okay. So want to hear from the 4 of you as we go through this. So can someone tell me the session goals, if you did your homework, what are these goals to mean to you?
Well, this is Carol.
Don't all...
The
Hey, Carol.
they explore the characteristics of leadership, and it's really important because we're a group of leaders to really understand what good characteristics of leadership are. So I think we need to spend all this time on that.
Excellent. Anybody else have anything else to add?
This is Catherine. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I can.
Okay. So the characteristics of good leaders. So thinking about which ones might be most important or where your strengths are in terms of your own leadership qualities. I also thought the part about being innate or taught was important, and what motivates someone to be a leader.
Okay, excellent.
Marianne here.
Others?
Okay, Marianne here. It was one of mine as well. I think that sometimes people are leaders and they don't know that, so to encourage them in those skills is important.
Excellent. Yep, for sure. Okay. So looking at the materials, oh no, go ahead, of course.
So I find leadership very important because it ties very closely to a person's experience in Rotary. And that's just my personal experience with great leaders and working with great leaders. I find that it fuels my engagement level.
Okay, can you give me an example of that?
Oh my gosh, I have so many. So I'll pick one. Working within our WCS committee, I see other leaders taking charge, championing projects, sharing their challenges, sharing their experiences, and that motivates me in doing better with my projects and participating more. And I find that when in the club in general, when I see other people taking a leadership role, okay, someone raise your hand, we need someone to do this. When someone says, sure, I'll step up and do it, it's like, oh, okay, well, you know what? More people are participating, so I'll participate as well, and I'll take the lead on this or that other task. So it allows me to be more engaged, and with more engagement, then people stick around and they have a more enjoyable time as a Rotarian and being true to the motto of service above self.
Okay, excellent. What is WCS?
World Community Service, or in some.
Thank you. I just didn't.
Also called the International Committee.
Yeah. Okay, didn't know what it was, so thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so we just got a whole host of, comments and thoughts and examples about, what these session goals mean to all of us. So we can only imagine what it would mean to the people that are basically taking Module 1. And they're all important. And so you have, 45 minutes in your topic section to be able to help people understand the different characteristics of leadership, the good and the bad, examples of the good and the bad, to discuss kind of what motivates people. So Manon, you sort of talked about, the sharing and, the mentoring opportunities. Like those are all things that, you can do your projects better. That motivates you. And then examining your own leadership style. So taking the time for people to really reflect about the kind of leader they are and how much of an impact these leadership characteristics have, not only in their personal lives, their professional lives, but of course in their Rotary lives. So looking at the module, which I know you've all done, given the material, how would you highlight, like what parts of the material would you highlight to help you support getting this message across? I'm just going to share, and you can jump in, talk. You don't even have to be interested in doing this particular topic, and you can comment. I'm going to see if I can switch. Perfect. So I can switch this to here. Should be able to all see the manual now. So we're talking about insights into leadership. So here's some of the session topics. So really you have 9 sections, I guess, in the session topics, and you have 45 minutes. So for example, we've all decided, you know, the characteristics of leadership are important. So let's look at question 1. The difference between leadership in a business and leadership in Rotary. You know, what is the role of a leader in Rotary? Maybe adding both questions is too much. So what if you asked everybody, what is the difference between leadership in a business and leadership role? Why do you think we asked this question?
In business, you have you make a decision, and people are required to follow. Not necessarily in Rotary.
That's right. But also, you know, most of us work. So there are things that we should be able to relate to in our business experience, right?
True.
This is Carol here. I think it's also getting at the idea that there are common characteristics for leadership in business and in Rotary. So people that might be hesitant to come forward in Rotary may already have their skills within the business community, and we should be encouraging them to become leaders in Rotary as well.
Excellent, Carol. Yes. So it's something that's relatable. It's something that, as Carol just eloquently said, you know, they may not see themselves as a Rotary leader yet, but they could be a business leader, and they could have those characteristics and skills. They just haven't identified them in a Rotary context. So, okay, so I'm going to stop talking. So what else would you do to help achieve some of these session goals?
David.
Hi, David.
When I've talked about this subject, facilitating it, Rotary, I've long felt that Rotary gives you a lot of opportunities to work under really good leaders and lots of opportunities to work under those that aren't. Well, when I like to get the discussion going about how do if you're not a leader of a committee, you can still be a leader by driving the committee forward, even when the leader is not a take charge kind of person. There's a lot of aspects to leadership, and one of them in Rotary is herding cats is what we do because everyone wants to go off in their own direction. Leadership is especially challenging in Rotary. You can do that from the front or you can do that from the back. If you're aware of it, it helps committees be more functional, in my opinion.
So demonstrate to me, David, you don't necessarily have to do this, but well, demonstrate to me and everybody else on the call, what would you ask us? Pretend that we're your class.
I lead the discussion with talking about good characteristics of leadership and bad characteristics of leadership, looking for examples, and then drill down on the bad examples. Okay, you find yourself in a committee and you have to try and get something done, and your leader is a non-communicator or a non-delegator or a 100% delegator with no direction. How do you deal with that? And then open the discussion up to try and get various points of view about how and when people have done that in the past.
Okay. Anybody else want to add anything to that? Or throw another question in? Does everybody like this question?
Manon here. I think that question is very relevant because we have such a variety and diversity of people in Rotary, and everybody's fueled by wanting to do something good, but not everybody's got either the training or the innate ability to be the most effective leader that they can be. So I think it's important for Rotarians to realize, all of us to realize, that even though they may see that as a challenge, there's ways of working with it. And I love the idea of posing the question, David, because we'll get all kinds of ideas of how you could start working with this. So I think it's a great one.
Okay. Other people?
Thank you, Anna.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, I'm gonna start picking on people in a minute. So do people see how question 1 and 2 follow really nicely together? You know, you ask for the differences between the leadership, and then you drill into the good characteristics, or like characteristics of good leaders. Getting a list of the characteristics that you think are important.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I always like to throw a curve in it, because I always like to put in an example of a leader who's perhaps a great leader but not doing great things. And that always,
like who?
like Hitler.
Yep.
For example, because sometimes that just gets people thinking, well, you know, is he a great leader? Well, he's not a great person, that's for sure. But he was a great leader because he got action going. He got people to do things that were absolutely unthinkable. So you know, when I was thinking about this as I was reviewing this homework, and I think, you know, what is it about a leader? A leader kind of gets the job done in the best way possible so that it's win-win-win for everybody. So in that sense, perhaps Hitler is not a great leader. But in Rotary, we really want to get the job done. When people can see that the job gets done, that's really rewarding. And I guess that ties into the motivation aspect as well. So if you're at work, what motivates people at work? Well, you have different tools at work that you can use to motivate people. But in Rotary, well, you can't waive the paycheck, and you can't waive the career path. But there's a lot of other things that we can put on the table and have a discussion about, that it's important for everyone in the course to realize that, because at some point, everybody who's taking RLI will be in a position where they can motivate others, and they need to know what can motivate people, because some people get stuck in that it's just the paycheck, and it isn't. Sometimes people just need a thank you at a club meeting in front of everybody, and some people don't like the public recognition. So bringing those topics out, or those ideas out, I think is important for just a general awareness.
Excellent. Okay, then where would you go next? So after you've had a conversation, you've outlined some of the leadership characteristics, good and bad, where would you go next? Fun fact, you don't have to go through all 9 questions. I've always believed as long as you deliver on those 3 session goals, you've accomplished your task.
And this is Kurt. You know, my experience is, realistically, if you look at any of the sections, there's no way possible to go through every one of the questions in any of the sections. There just isn't enough time in the day.
That's correct. Thank you for saying that.
Hi, this is Carol here. I think one of the things that I would want to get across is really a discussion of what motivates people in a volunteer civic organization. Because you're talking a little bit about engagement, and I think as leaders in this organization, we need to meet the motivational needs of the people in the organization. So we have to be aware of why people are joining and help them to achieve their goals.
Okay, excellent. How would you do that? Pretend we're your class.
Well, actually, I just did a webinar on 20 really low-cost ways to motivate the troops at work, and that really ties into question 5 and 6, where you talk about what motivates someone to excel in the workplace. And all the research indicates that a bonus or any monetary doesn't really motivate. What motivates is a feeling of actually having accomplished something. I think it was Kurt that mentioned that not everybody likes to be publicly acknowledged, but to have that deep sense of satisfaction that what you have done has made a difference in your community or internationally is something that really motivates people. And I would discuss a little bit about, you know, just some of the learning that's come about through studying of motivation and what actually people want to do to excel. and just express that, and then have a discussion about meeting the needs of the people in the club.
Okay. Anybody else? How would you achieve this?
Yeah, this is
Who
Catherine.
are your class?
I know that one thing that might get like sort of an icebreaker, just get people started thinking about why they decided to participate in the leadership workshop in the first place, thinking about their own leadership style and how it's worked for them. So, sort of expressing their own personal attributes as a leader, or what they perceive to be, what they bring to the table as a good leader. Because I know the question where it says, number 7 about looking at presidents in your own club or thinking about who was a good leader. I think that's a good question, but I think it's also really important to think about what you bring to the table. And it might be a good way to get things going. What prompted you to even consider joining the leadership aspect of Rotary? Doing the module.
Okay. Anybody else? How would you accomplish this in your topic? Nobody?
Nobody.
That's the end of the topic? Okay, so we're going on to the next. No. So what I'm hearing is...
question before we move on. I want to know if other facilitators have done a leadership styles questionnaire. And I've got one here. I think we use it a couple of times, Tamara? And
Yep.
Should we take the time in doing that, or do you think it's more important to spend time on how do you deal with the leadership challenges that you find in your own club? What are other people?
Well, if I can put just a pause in that, because I want to talk about the next section that we're using is what activity could you use to support others learning? I look at that as an activity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
But that's okay. That's a good segue. But I just want to make sure that we have absolutely covered. I just realized that you weren't actually looking at what I put up here. So I just want to make sure that everybody is comfortable with the concept of asking the question. So you're facilitating the learning. So you're not teaching this module, you're facilitating this module. So it's important for you to ask questions and help move people through the conversation, and that you feel that there's enough material in 1 through 9 to be able to achieve some of these session goals. Yes?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. So then as far as, great segue, as far as activities go, what activities could you use to support others learning? So Manal, you were talking about the quiz or the survey that you fill out so that it identifies your own leadership characteristic or style.
Mm-hmm.
What else can you use?
Carol here. I think a neat activity would to be break into smaller groups and maybe have a scenario of something that might happen in a Rotary Club, and then each small group could have a little bit of a discussion about what could they bring to the table in terms of leadership in order to solve the dilemma or achieve the vision.
Okay.
That's great. Can we start building a database of those? I'd like to have.
That would be a great idea.
Yeah, because and certainly on the spur of the moment, sometimes they're hard to dream up.
Yeah, you'd certainly want to have the scenarios ready ahead of time.
Mm-hmm. So how about you and I exchange one, Carol? Okay. I promise.
Okay.
I'll email you one tonight, and you email me one tonight, and now we'll have.
I won't be emailing it tonight, but I'll try to get it by the end of the weekend.
Sure, not a problem.
And there, Leslie and Jane, you've been very, very quiet. Leslie, have you ever facilitated insights into leadership?
Left. Not there.
Oh, she's still there, but okay. Fran, have you ever
Yeah, I
done
have.
insights into leadership?
I just think you all, you get, how to put this? You have to remember your time. So if you start getting too much, you have to look at what do you want to have out of it, and if you get into too much detail or whatever, I don't mean not detail, but you're going to lose time, right? You only have so much time. So you'll have to look at all these questions and decide before you're doing it which ones you're going to work with and which ones you're not. Because if you do a scenario in there, then you can't possibly do all these questions. You see what I mean, Tamara?
Yeah, I do.
Well,
Yeah, no,
yeah, absolutely, I agree.
That's why you have to meet with your team. In my experience, I literally help others explore the characteristics of leadership. So what makes a good leader? What makes a bad leader? Put it on a flip chart, write them down. Okay, can anybody give me an example of a good leader, a bad leader? Okay, let's talk about motivation. Like I literally move in the module or the topic like that. The examine your own leadership style, I like to use that as an activity. So Carol, I think it was you, forgive me if it wasn't, but giving a scenario and breaking people up into smaller groups.
Yeah.
With like that's a great way to use an activity to demonstrate a session goal. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So Fran, you're absolutely right. You have to make sure that you're moving through the module. 45 minutes is not a long time. And in fact, I would say plan on 40 minutes because you want to give people some time to fill out the evaluation after you complete the module. And you also always want to think about the fact that sometimes discussions go over, sometimes the conversation is really good, and you want to allow for that. So you can plan on talking to people about what motivates them, but it might not happen, and that's okay.
You have to be flexible.
So,
you can't be rigid, because if you're rigid, then you're going to find that you want to have that happen, and maybe it's not that day. You've got a group, and it's not going to happen. You have to go with what your group
and
is.
The skill of your group could also be different, right?
Yeah.
You could have senior leadership, like senior Rotarians. And I'm not talking about age. I'm talking about experience. So they'll maybe go through these materials quite quickly. So, but all I want to do is give people enough ideas that they feel comfortable that they can put this module or this topic together. So anyone that's interested in this topic, is there anyone that does not feel comfortable? Corey, I haven't heard anything from you tonight. So if you're having microphone challenges, you're on deck. No. All right. Can you chat, Corey? Learning from all the great discussion. And Leslie said, please unmute me. Still muted. All right, we're still wanting to hear back from Leslie. I'm sorry, Leslie, I'm going to try. It shows me that everybody's unmuted. Leslie. Now, it says something about a phone, or you're on the phone. Did that work? Leslie, are you unmuted?
Can you hear us now?
We can hear you. I was wondering why you were so quiet.
Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
The quietest anyone has ever seen me ever.
Absolutely. Okay, so Leslie, I asked you a question, and did you want to comment? And you've been waiting to comment that whole time?
I think that everyone else has actually really covered it very well, so I don't have anything to add. But thank you.
Perfect. No problem. I'm not going to leave you. I'm not going to mute you again. Okay? So I'll leave you off mute. And sorry, there was someone that Yeah, just mute yourself. Sorry, there was someone who was talking just before I connected Leslie.
Tomorrow, this is Harry.
Oh, hi, Harry. Did you have a comment? Yes?
I have a question for you. Two questions. Okay. One, do you have a timekeeper that will keep people on track, the facilitator on track? That's one question.
Okay. Do you want me to answer before you answer the next one? Or okay, no, two. Yep.
How can you? How do you? You don't actually limit discussion, but how do you bring closure to discussion if it's going way past the 45 minutes?
Okay, that's a great question. So number two, what I'd like to say is, can we put that into the what if section? I put a different scenarios together. You know, what if this happens? How do you handle it? So I'm going to put, I actually think I have, you finish early and you make a mistake. So I'll add it there and answer it there. But as far as the timekeeper goes, I don't personally use a timekeeper. I do look at the clock, and I know that I have to be done by a certain period of time, and I sort of schedule depending on how the conversation goes. But how do other people time themselves, for those of you that have done it? Manon, Kurt, David, Leslie?
Leslie? You can hear me still?
Yep. Yep.
In the past, we've kept each other on track when I've facilitated with others, so that one can kind of come nudge you if you're getting a little off track, or come in and go, oh, this is great discussion, we can parking lot some of it, or we'll come back to it at lunch or a break if we have time.
Yeah, and this is Kurt. Like you, Tamara, I watch the clock. Having said that, I've more than once gone over my own time limit as I got too enthused and the conversation got too enthused. But yeah, personally, just try and watch the time myself. And the other one is that also say that, available for further discussion at lunch or after the session if people want to talk more about the topic, and put it, and put closure to it within the time bounds.
I think it's also useful to know what's in the future sections so that you can actually just create the bridge and a bit of thirst for coming back for the future modules. If you can say, more of this is going to be presented in Module 2, or we're going to explore this in more detail in Module 3, or et cetera, et cetera.
Does that make sense to everyone? Harry, you had the question. Does that answer your question or give you some tips on how to handle it?
I'm just wondering, actually, if you had a shepherd's crook and you got yanked off, but no. That's fine. It's interesting to know that these people, Kurt and Mano and yourself, the clock yourselves. So that's something obviously we're going to have to be conscious of.
There was also a suggestion, I think Lori brought this up, this didn't happen in Rotary, but somewhere else in business, where they had ELMO. ELMO is an acronym that means everybody let's move on. And they would just have a little Elmo doll, and someone would just say, right, let's move on, next topic or next thing, and just call the Elmo. So it kind of shepherds the cats in a funny way, because we want people to have fun too with this stuff, right? Anyway, there's the Elmo of the day.
So is Elmo going to be in the box of cables and stuff?
No, I actually bought my own personal one.
Elmo doesn't appear in the box of fun. But okay. Play-Doh and pipe cleaners. Yeah. Okay, so we're now going to move. You will notice as we go through this, we're going to go through these faster. So don't feel like we're going to go through every single topic like this. I'm trying to get people to start thinking in the way to help them prepare for all of these. and so some of this is just sort of going through it so people get there. So thank you everybody for your comments so far. They've been excellent. And I am going to move on to, and instead of, everybody can see the PDF that I'm scrolling through, I'm assuming.
No, I can't.
Yes?
No, no.
No.
Oh, for crying out loud. Okay, I'm just gonna, I think it's because I've been back in, oh yeah, it's not there. Okay. How about now?
Yes.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
bigger.
that's there.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's there. Okay, good. I'm sorry about that. When I go down into chat, sometimes it kicks me out. So yeah, anyway, it's it seems to be a technology issue. But instead of going back to the PowerPoint, what I can do is, because I just cut these session goals from each and stuck them in the PowerPoint. So when we go down to my Rotary World, same concept. So we've got the session goals. So discuss the purpose of Rotary, understand the organizational structure, and describe how the structure helps me as a Rotarian. Okay? So the materials you can use are over here. There's different things online which you'll find in the RLI files area. And there's articles which are included in the participant guide or the faculty guide, and then you've got PowerPoint presentations. That's what that PPT means. All right, so for those of you, I'm going to go down to how many of you indicated you'd be interested in doing my Rotary World? Just put your hand up in the little go-to meeting. You can do that now. Okay, so we have Leslie, Carol, David, Manal, Catherine. I think I have everybody. Okay, that's great. So,
Did it come up?
okay,
Christina.
it should have. Okay, so for my Rotary World, how would you deliver this? How would you facilitate this? Where do you start?
Leslie here.
Okay.
I like that Hank and Rick had a fabulous slide of the upside down triangle, which talked about Rotary being made of the 1.2 million Rotarians, and then the districts, the zones,
This one
and down
here. This one here.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, there was a slightly more detailed one, but I liked to start with that to sort of give that big overview, and then start talking what that meant to people, and then move on to things like the avenues of service. But I always like to give them this overview because we always have some people who are new. It's nice that the clubs drive everything, which what we keep talking about is it's all about the individual and what the clubs want to do. Find it, become a champion. You can really make magic happen.
Okay. Anybody else? That's excellent, by the way, Leslie.
I sometimes pop up the a map that shows where a district is, and followed by a map of what our zone is. So people get the idea that, you know, this nesting of, it corresponds to the inverted triangle, right? The club, the district, the zone, and then the head office, so to speak. And the zone picture is available on the zone website, which is also full of resources.
That's on the RI site, is it?
Not the RI site, the zone site.
So,
Zone site.
Yeah.
Cool, thanks.
Does Dan, you know how to get to the zone site and where to find that?
No.
The zone site.
So
Manal, if you can email me,
yeah.
if you can email me the link, I'll put it up on the meeting when I get it.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay. Okay. So I'll put it up on the screen when I get it. Okay. So we've talked about, Leslie talked about the, you know, the triangle, which is great because it's right in your manual. So you could literally just take this and stick it in the PowerPoint presentation and go through it. Or it's a triangle. You could recreate it if you're, you know, that technically, you know, creative, I guess. So how, what are some of the other things that you would talk about to get to get people to understand these session goals. Any of the questions that jump out at people?
Leslie again. Apparently, you just can't shut me up now.
Now that you're off mute. Yeah.
Exactly. I like to really talk through the motto, the avenues of service, the four-way test, and the object, and put them all together to make sure people really understand it and do that whole, what does it mean to you? And I really enjoy teaching the four-way test about why you can't just stop at number one, but why you have to do each of them. And I like to do it in the, honey, does my butt look big in this dress method, which always gets a laugh. Is it the truth? Well, my butt does look big in this dress. Is it fair to all concerned? Well, it is big. Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Every man in the room starts to laugh. But they start understanding that it's not black and white, and that's why we're trying to get something that's more diverse, and it seems to engender good conversation.
So it's Fran. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Am I muted?
Nope.
No. Okay. So Mano and Kurt they were with me when we trained our new Mosaic group, and they see the four-way test as very cultish and are not very fond of it. So what do you do there? I don't think anybody heard.
Pardon me?
Oh, we heard you. Yeah, we heard you.
Okay. No, they do. Didn't they, Kurt? No, they were not enamored with four-way test.
That group was, I was just going to talk about that because I did that section for that group, and it totally threw me off because, especially when I was talking about how clubs are structured in terms of committees and the avenues of service and this kind of stuff, because they had not been an active Rotary Club for a long time, they're just starting. All of that was so new to them, it just blew their heads right off, and we had to go right back to square one to talk about how a club is organized, period. And I think, speaking to the four-way test thing, I think perhaps giving and I don't know, Kurt, did you give the history on that?
I did, because the four-way test is actually in the ethics and vocational service section,
Right.
not in my Rotary World section.
Yeah. So
and I gave the history of it indeed.
Yeah, because I think with the history, it can help demystify or decultify what that's all about. I mean, none of us walk around quoting the four-way test all the time, but it's kind of like the golden rule. The golden rule is not a cult thing. Do unto others as you would like to have done to you. It's just an everyday living kind of thing. So I think it's a good discussion point, and it's an opportunity for us to say that Rotary is in fact not a cult, and that you can actually. And here's where it ties into leadership, and to David's point, when you see something that appears like that, then use your leadership skills and bring it up as a discussion and talk about it, which also speaks to what we need to do more as Rotarians is talk about Rotary.
Can I'm going to interject here. So I'm going to be part of a zone discussion on membership, and part of it is the fact that somebody's going to take the manual of procedures and rip it up and on this panel. And part of it is we've been pretty rigid. So we're talking about all these things that make up a Rotary Club, but is it really, do we have to? And what Rotary is now saying is we can be much more flexible. So we have to be able, in a session like this, to listen to these people and to be flexible. So we need to lighten up. And that would be my big opinion. Like, let's not say it has to be this way, because it doesn't have to be that way. Okay?
I don't understand.
I've always, this is Hal. I've always found the four-way test to be useful in terms of making important decisions so that you think critically and you end up acting in an ethical fashion. And for me, the high ethics of the members of our club, that's one of the things that's drawn me to Rotary in the first place.
Yeah, and so here's my point. That's fine for us.
Okay,
and
hold on. I'm gonna shut down though because we're getting off topic.
Yeah,
so this is an Elmo moment. Yeah, no, Fran, I'm serious.
No, I am.
So yes, there's going to be some sensitivities. So I would say avoid it. I would also say if we go back to the session goals, the purpose of Rotary. So understanding the organizational structure and describe how the structure helps me as a Rotarian. I love the first question. Why did you join your Rotary Club? And if someone says because of the 4-way test, excellent. But if somebody says another reason, great. We get to remind ourselves why we joined our Rotary Club. So some people may still be in that, old school way of rigid thinking. I like to come every week. I like the fellowship. And hopefully there'll be other people in the club that say, no, I come here because I get to work on really great projects and I get to make a difference in the world, or whatever reason. But we want to remind people the purpose of Rotary. And I don't know about all of you, but how I understand the purpose of Rotary is really the strategic plan.
Okay.
Thoughts? How can you know the purpose of an organization if you don't understand the strategy of the organization?
Should we all not rush in at once to that? I agree with you, Tamara. I think that we really have a lot of use from the strategic plan, and that slide you had up a moment ago, because the strategic plan is so clear, it's a single line followed by the 3 portions to it, and then how we do it below. It's the easiest thing. Oh, look, you have a different slide than I use. But it really helps make it very simple. And sorry, I'm looking at the old strategic plan, I guess, with a worldwide network of inspired individuals who translate their passions into relevant social causes to change lives and communities.
Mm-hmm. You're probably looking at the previous faculty guide, which they changed in 2015.
So I'm looking at my old
curriculum. Yeah, so they changed the curriculum every 3 years. So you have to make sure that you're in the right version, or everything gets misaligned.
No, sorry, I am looking at that. I just mean there is no better way in my mind of describing it than a single sentence. And that's why I use that slide still. Sorry, I wasn't clear.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's okay. Okay,
Point of
so
just in the don't just change every 3 years with the RLI materials. It's whenever Rotary International changes the strategic goals, which doesn't necessarily align with RLI.
Yeah, no, sorry, I should have been clear that RLI materials that Leslie is referring to could be from the previous version, and RLI changes every 3 years. The strategic plan does not. Yeah,
right, it changes
thank you.
Differently. But the one that you had just on the screen a moment ago, that is the current strategic goal diagram.
I hope so.
RLI.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, okay.
Wherever it got to on this, the one you just had up, yes, that one.
Yeah. And remember, a lot of people, so this is module 1, this is an introduction. So a lot of people have never seen the strategic plan before, understanding the priorities and goals. So this could be easily illustrated in a slide. You could ask questions, what are the 5 strategic priorities of Rotary? Does anybody know the 5 strategic priorities of Rotary?
They're right in front of us.
Fellowship, integrity, diversity, and service leadership.
I think that ties in nicely to the
It was a
question,
trick.
why did you join Rotary? And then, you know, you can simply put those words on the flip chart. Well, now I'm getting into the activities part, and just, you know, put a check mark beside all these things, so they see that why they joined is also what Rotary wants to Rotary sees the goal or a priority.
Okay. And of course, everybody, what I don't know if you can see the highlighting, but that's the strategic priority, and these are the strategic goals.
Right.
Can you actually see when I highlight it?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see that or not. Oh, good. Oh, wow. That makes my life a lot easier. Okay, so now if we switch over to activities, what activity would you do for this? Again, go back to your goals.
Something that I think would be really successful with this section, sorry, this is Eva from Lethbridge, I don't know if you can hear me. I like asking people to create an elevator speech. So looking at whatever their version of Rotary is, why they joined or what they get out of it, or even basing it off of the strategic plan and saying, okay, you have 2 sentences, you are talking to someone in an elevator, how would you convey, you know, what Rotary is in a way that is representative, but also short and sweet, right? Like, what are the main points of Rotary that you want to be able to get across? And then it starts a really nice conversation looking at those priorities, both from us as members and then how they align with the strategic plan.
That's excellent. Excellent, excellent. Does anybody else have any other examples of what they use or what they could use? You can also cheat and go into, you know, don't think, yeah, they don't have it. You could do something with objective Rotary. Anybody else taught this topic? Vanilla, haven't you taught this topic before?
Yes, I have. And there's just so much in here that I think really, you know, the essence is for people to realize that people join for different reasons, but that the way Rotary's structured and the way, I think I also put something on the club structure in here somewhere. I'd have to look at that. That the structure is there to support their big why. What's their big why? And I love the idea, Eva, of your example of having an elevator speech, because I don't know how many times I get to talk about Rotary, and gee, I wish, you know, I've polished it, but every time I say it, it's a different, and then go on and on and on. But people really only want the Reader's Digest version, like the 2 sentences, like you said, and people need to be prepared to speak about it. So I think that's a great activity.
Yeah, and I've taught this before. One thing I've always found is people don't really. I'm on this slide. I don't know if you guys can see it, but the district, the zone, and Rotary International. I don't think people have a really good understanding of these 3 concepts. You know, like, what is the function? You know, why do we have these things? You know, what do they do? They have a really good understanding of the club level, but they don't have anything past that. So after, you know, we've kind of gone through this piece, this triangle piece, I will sometimes go into this, you know, using questions, you know, like, why do we have a district? You know, what does the district governor actually do? Has anybody ever met the district governor? You know, those kinds of things. And I'll ask about zones and, you know, about Rotary International and those kinds of things, and work through it quite quickly. And my activity, I can't even remember what activity I've done, to be completely honest, but Eva, I do like your example. I think that's an excellent one and an easy one. You get some good conversation. So I think we probably could move on to the next one if everybody feels comfortable. So those of you that are interested in facilitating this module, do you feel you have enough information to do so? And also understand some of the pitfalls with some of the potential hot buttons as well. Yes?
Yes.
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 Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, for those of you interested in, oh, by the way, I just wanted to let everybody know that, so GoToMeeting, it tells me when you're not actually paying attention. So like if you open up another browser or if you're checking your email, oh yeah, it absolutely does. So I know when you're not paying attention, and oh, I'm not offended in any way at all. No, I'm kidding. I do know, but I'm kidding about the offensive. Yeah, I just wanted you to know. So every webinar you participate in, when you're surfing the net, they know. It tells you. It tells you. Yeah, I just went, oh, really? Interesting. Okay. Um, so ethics and vocational service. By show of hands, how many are interested in facilitating this? I bet you'll get 2. Okay,
Yes.
3, 2.
I am.
Oh, excellent.
Your hand up. I can do that one.
You want to do
Okay, I've got Catherine. Oh, Manon. Oh, okay, we have an argument going on. Eva, Manon. Eva, is that how you pronounce your name? Eva?
Yes.
Is that right?
Or Eva. Either is great.
Okay, Eva. Excellent. Eva's nice. I'll do Eva.
Okay, sounds good.
Both are nice. Okay, and Hal and Manon. Okay, you've put your hands up. That's great. So again, we're not going to go through the session goals. So tell me, what activities would you use to support this?
So this is Kurt. I'm going to not quite answer your question to start with, but one of the things I do in this one when I've taught it is I joke around a little bit about some of the items in the manual, is because some of them are pretty outdated, like the first question, which is, what is a classification?
Yeah.
Going back to that, the change in Rotary to be much more flexible. So I joke around about this as a bit of a history lesson for some of it. At least, you know, like the classification as an example. So that was just a sidetrack from not answering your question about what activities. You know.
Well, you kind of did. You kind of did. You just said you did a history lesson, but back to the activities. What would you? How could you do this?
So this is Catherine, and I was thinking that you're sort of almost at the midway point of your session. So I was thinking of sort of changing the tack a little bit, showing a video. Like I saw one from The Office on ethics, and it's hilarious. It's actually about unethics, and so it's almost the reverse. So just sort of lighten things up a little bit, show people, you know, a light and humorous side. You probably be getting a lot of information given to you, and it's just a way to kind of change things up a little bit. And then, I mean, it can prompt conversation just in terms of, you know, oh my God, that's not going to work. But yeah, it just changes how you feel about something by watching it.
Great. And can you put that YouTube link or whatever link to the video? Can you put it in the chat box so that everybody can have it? That's great. Great idea.
Could, but then I'm going to be surfing the net and I'm going to get my hand slapped.
No, I swear I'll forgive you. It's like, nice response though. So, okay, what other kinds of activities? What other kinds of activities could you do?
I like to see use the information. Think about how do we apply it. So there was one point in there I think about you know, brainstorming how you actually see, you know, ethical and vocational service in action. How do you make that happen? You know, whether that's through projects or whatever.
I like highlighting the idea that we all bring something from our vocation to Rotary. And I use the story of Stone Soup. And I don't know if you've ever read it. It's a children's book. But it's this idea that if everyone brings like just one thing to the pot, and something that they're good at or something that they have, then you make this amazing soup is the metaphor. So I actually draw a pot on a big whiteboard or on sticky paper, and I make people write down what they bring to Rotary on Post-its and put it into the pot to show that even though, you know, we come from different backgrounds and we all bring different experiences, that's really what makes Rotary awesome. And it also helps us really split the workload. You know, if you think about the Rotarians, you know, we're all the busiest people in the world, and that's part of what makes us great Rotarians. So kind of sharing that load and saying, okay, like, I love education, I love teaching, so why don't I participate in RLI, and someone that's good at something else will do their task. Do you know what I mean?
That's a great example. I love that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Has anybody done anything like completely out of the box? You think ethics, vocational service, and break it down. I mean, I'm sorry, but it couldn't be more drier, in my opinion. So I love the video. I love the stone soup, just to shake it up.
There's another thing too. It's a game. It's called Have You Ever, and it's you sort of, so you can go 10. One way of doing it is you got 10 fingers in the air, and so you go, have you ever, you know, surfed the net during a meeting, for example? Like that's not really unethical, but you know what I mean. And so you ask people those questions, and you can do it. So I mean, it can be open and honest, but not everybody wants to do that. I get it, but it's just a way of again, it's sort of making people realize how easy it is to do something unethical in a really small way, but it's still unethical, you know. And how do you kind of work past that so that you're not kind of, you don't fall into that trap of doing something like time theft. That's a really big one in business, for example, time theft. So anyway, it's just another little light game. It's just accountability.
Another version of stone soup is having people stand in a circle, and you have a ball of yarn, and someone holds the end of that ball of yarn, and someone else, and you ask, you know, who's got something to that they can bring to our Rotary Club that's a positive characteristic or an ability or a skill or a passion. And as soon as someone says, yeah, I can, you know, I'm a good event planner, so you throw the ball of yarn to them. And then someone else speaks up, well, I'm good at IT stuff, so you throw the ball of yarn to them. And what happens is that it creates this big web that they see, and they see how all interconnected they are and how dependent they are on each other. And they're bringing all of this to Rotary, and it creates this strong web of support for the club. So similar to the soup thing, but more tactile.
A nice visual too, that idea of a web.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. I like that.
So do I. I just also sent a link. It's a Rotary resource, but it is really on vocational service. It's actually quite a good resource. You know, if you don't really understand what that avenue service is, it's a good way to kind of get you up to speed on that. But it also gives you some resources that you can also look up. You know, I dare somebody to actually email the Rotary Service Department and ask them for some examples of how we could illustrate it in Leadership Institute in a workshop. Anyway, I'm getting silly, but anyway, it's a good resource, so take a look at it if you want. Thank you, Catherine, for posting that YouTube video. Don't everybody go and watch the video right now. Like, no, go ahead if you want. I mean, it's like, so everybody's paying attention. Yeah, now that I've told you that I can see if you're paying attention or not. No, I'm kidding. I do mean it. You can though. So All right, so that is vocational service. I think we have a couple of really good examples. Again, when you think about, you only have 45 minutes here, and if you can get creative and really demonstrating sort of that concept of ethics in your business, your business environment and your place, and bringing those things together, and figuring out a way to demonstrate that, it's excellent. The next topic that we have covered is our foundation. For those of you that are interested, if you put your hand up to let us know that this is an area that you were interested in covering, that would be great. I will say while people are putting their hands up, this is probably one of the more challenging sections of the module, or just in general, all of the modules. I find this is when people go to sleep. This is when people check out. I think people assume because there is also the grant seminar that they don't have to listen. I want to remind everybody it's Module 1, and back to Fran's comments, we have to be really careful on our time. You can really lose your time on this one for sure. And the other thing, I think people will ask you questions that will pull you into other areas that you're going to cover in later modules. So keeping all of that in mind, the session goals are understanding the basic goals, programs, and financing of our Rotary Foundation, discussing the importance and value of our Rotary Foundation, and the need for each Rotarian to make a TRF their charity of choice. Anyways, that's the Kool-Aid. I'm echoing now. Somebody took off your headset. Can you mute whoever that is? I know this mic's too close to your face. Okay. I'm gonna mute you, okay? Where are you? There you are. Oh, you muted yourself. Thanks, Manal. Okay. So, who wants to tackle foundation? I only have Marianne. Kurt, you like to do foundation. I don't know if you put your hand up before Manal's.
Sorry, we had to unmute me now.
So, yeah, Kurt here. So I think this is one of the most important sections in the RLI, and I think RLI would agree with it since it does come up in all three modules. Having said that, totally agree that this is the very, very simple introduction and needs to be kept that way, not getting into too much detail, just promising more detail in modules 2 and 3 and in the district grant seminar. And again, a tactic I use is that willing to discuss more in break or lunch or after the session if people want to get into too much depth on this one.
So how would you tackle this?
So really, I on this one, a lot of questions and looking for the participants to answer. And some of the ones, straight off the manual are quite good. Like, what is a foundation? What is a foundation? Can you name some foundations? To get people thinking about what foundations do and what they are. Then like to go into a little bit about, skip into the benefits of the foundation, what it gives you and your clubs. And that's a lot to do with the grants, which don't talk much about the grants other than there is a lot of money available for grants, basically. And that's the depth taken in this one. And that in turn leads to then, why do you want to donate to TRF? Well, one is, the money engine for the big things that Rotary does in the world, if that makes sense.
If I can add, Kurt, something that I like to do with this section, and I actually do it in my Club for Foundation Month as well, is just a little bit of Foundation 101, I call it. And what I have done is I've looked at some of the matching dollars, and I say, okay, so you're a sustaining member, you're donating $100. Why is that important? And I go through, if you donate $100 to the Rotary Foundation, here is exactly how many malaria nets that purchases, or how many children you can send to school, and fill in the blank nation. And so I kind of break it up like that. So I just really like taking the work that the foundation does, and you can do it locally or internationally or whatever the case is, and just show people, okay, if you're donating this much money, here's exactly how far that can go. So it just makes it a little bit more like realistic, you know what I mean?
It's a good idea.
And the foundation is great for documentation. So all of that should be readily available, right?
There is fairly available. One thing I would point out of anybody considering doing this section, the materials, supporting materials, many of them on the RLI site are way out of date. For example, one of the documents on the LRI site to support this section is the 2009 changes to the budget for TRF. I mean, that's 7 years ago. That's so out of date that it's meaningless. Other materials in that section, like there's a PowerPoint presentation. It talks about things like 3H grants that haven't been available now for about 5-6 years. So you need, if you're going to do this section, you have to be really aware of the datedness of some of the materials on the RLI site that support this. You need to find more up-to-date materials than what's there.
And I do have, I've been scrolling through, hopefully everybody can see it, but I've been scrolling through. All participants do get a copy of this, I guess, reference guide that I'm scrolling through on the screen for everybody. So, there is a lot of resources in there, a lot of summary information, but again, this gets overwhelming. So it's breaking it down, I think, how Kurt has illustrated, talking about the differences between what a foundation does, putting all those pieces together in small bits. And if you get questions, advanced questions, really it comes down to, well, wait for wait for the other modules. They're coming up, and we'll cover that. Or there's also the district's, nothing wrong with promoting the district grant seminar. I mean, it happens all the time. So, and of course, every club, it's mandatory for them to go. But it is a tough topic because this is, keeping everybody's attention. So let's talk about activities to support this, because I find that doing those activities are the best way to keep people engaged. So what activities would you do for this section? Keeping in mind it's Module 1. So understanding the basic goals, programs, and financing of our Rotary Foundation, and the importance and value of your Rotary Foundation to your club.
No.
It's tough.
So Kurt, again, yes, I have challenges trying to figure out activities related to this particular section, especially in Module 1, because it is such a high-level rush of such a huge topic.
Mm-hmm.
And would be glad to hear anybody's suggestions for activities.
Has anybody taught this and done an activity? I have a feeling nobody has.
No. So Hank used to actually take a little sample of a whole, so 3 or 4 very simple projects, give an amount of money that wasn't enough to support them, split people into groups, and ask them to figure out how they'd support them. It was a quick way of doing it, just to let them realize the difficulties in all these amazing projects. How do you fund them? I like to think it was also his way of, letting them know, when your project isn't funded, don't come harass me every time. But it was really effective to let people know how many great things there were and how complicated it is to try to figure out.
So that actually gets covered not in Module 1, but in, I'm trying to remember, is it Module 2 or 3?
I think it's Module 2.
Is where you start going more into the grants and funding, as opposed to in the Module 1 component. And the other one that you also get in Module 1, though, is the service project section, which I don't think has funding in it. It does have funding in it, actually.
So in the being present of the time, or knowing the time, what I'm going to do is put a pin in this. I think we need to come up with some sort of an activity for this tool. So if you have an interest or desire to try and figure it out, be greatly appreciated. But I'm going to actually talk to Hank and Rick about this too, and see if we can actually get one that will help us get through this module, because I've never been a fan of how it's been put together. Kurt, I think you do a great job when you facilitate it in Calgary, because it's a difficult section. So, but we need to figure it out so that everybody feels comfortable. I know that I personally wouldn't want to do this myself, but. Okay, so if that's okay with everybody, does anybody have any other questions about foundation? Okay, we're going to go to engaging members, which is my favorite, and we've got 2 more. Okay, so engaging members, activity for this.
Here, I think what I would do is split the group into smaller groups and ask them to come up with an activity they could do at their club to engage members. What are some of the things that they would feel would be engaging, and then wrap that up and bring that back to the group and have them present to each other as an idea sharing thing.
Mm-hmm. I know I like to, when I do this section, do you all know about the surveys? It's like a membership satisfaction survey. If you don't, I'll put it in the chat. But I like to spend some time with having people break up into smaller groups, and it's actually in the insert. So it's on page 28 of your faculty guide. But it's a membership satisfaction survey. And to me, I tell people, if you don't know the answer to the question, flag it, because that's telling. But Rotary has developed this thinking that, what's in the survey actually keeps people engaged. And so if there's something like, you don't have great speakers, or, you're not involved in an activity, all of these kinds of things can affect a member's engagement and overall satisfaction. So I sometimes, and I don't really like the membership satisfaction survey as presented in the manual. So I have a couple of examples of other ones that I use that I like better. They're shorter, and they kind of get at the issues a little bit quicker than having to do this. But I do like to break people off and have them actually go through this and work this through, and then share it back with the group after. But anybody else have any other ideas about what they do?
We were just getting ready to undertake a membership survey, so if you would be so kind as to share those other ones, that would be much appreciated. And
Sure, I will do
so
that.
we're also planning it's a more of an initial orientation, I guess. Traditionally, in High River, we've had a thing called a fireside. So all the new members over the last half a year or a year, we get them together and have some of the long-term members, present about the history of the club, how the club's financed. So some of the even preliminary things before you would jump into RLI. Hopefully, creating an appetite for more. One of the things that we're looking at.
The other thing too, I also, on page 31 of the manual, I love, they have engagement ideas. So I love asking people, who does pair bonding, or a minute in the life, or web connected, so I go through a couple of examples, and then I say, like, what are some, just to talk about the High River Club, like you mentioned fireside chats, so what are some examples of what other people do in their clubs? And then another activity I will do is they develop or commit to doing an engagement activity in your club. What does it look like? How would you roll it out? How would you present it? All those kinds of things. So they're actually working on developing a program specific to their club. And then they come back and share it. Okay. All right. And any other questions about this? People feel absolutely comfortable doing this section. How many people are actually going to do this section when they facilitate? Show of hands. Okay, Leslie, David. Okay. Oh, there's quite a few people dropped off, but that's good. Okay, it's one of my favorite sections. I love this section because it's so important. And we can all come up with examples about, the clubs that don't have, for example, regular speakers, or they don't have great speakers, or the food sucks, or the parking sucks. There's an aspect that turns people off, or it's always the same people doing the same things, those types of things. So I like to have those conversations when I'm doing this. Okay, the last topic that we're going to be talking about is creating service projects. So this is also a great topic. How many of you plan on covering this? By show of hands. Okay. And some activities to support this. Eva, I love that you've put your hand up for just about all of them. I think it's awesome.
Good. I don't actually know when my hand is up or down. Sometimes I just click the button.
That's okay, because that's about how I feel about, I don't even know if you can see the slides. I think you can. So it's really difficult. This thing is kind of clunky that way. So what kind of activity would you do for creating service projects?
Well, this is one of my favorite topics. What I like to do is talk about, well, number one, how are you going to determine what's a project? And ask for ideas on projects. And then slowly but surely bring in the sustainability stuff that Rotary is now requiring out of projects if you're going to go for funding. So getting ideas for projects and then dividing the class into groups and talking about, well, if you're going to put a project together, what are the things that you're going to have to look at in order to do your pitch? So it brings up leadership skills as well, because we'll have to anyway, it just brings up leadership skills. So they divide into groups, they come up with a project, and then we do like the Dragon's Den and have them pitch the project. And what's interesting is sometimes that actually turns into real projects. And that's happened when we did an RLI, I think it was last year.
Yes.
Someone from our club is actually bringing up the project that they talked about at RLI and looking at making that a real project. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of doing it. And I think it also covers all the session goals. Because again, as a leader, you have to know how to get, put projects together, get buy-in, present them to your club, you know, put a little bit of a plan together, you know, thinking about all those sustainability issues and, you know, all those other pieces that you need to think about when you're planning, and going through all of it, you know, checks all those boxes. It's a great example. Anybody else have another example of anything they've used before? Fran, you've been kind of quiet. I'm sure you've taught this before. Okay, that's quiet. So if everybody feels comfortable with this, we'll move on to the next section. I'm sure people are, because it's getting kind of late. So I did this what if piece. You know, what if you ask a question and get no response?
Throw the ball of yarn at them. Oh, pardon me.
Okay.
Maybe not.
No, it's not a bad idea. Corey, what would you do? Wait it out. Okay. Staring contest style, all right. Jim, what would you do?
I've participated where the facilitator has asked us to stand up and get the blood moving so that all those wonderful ideas trapped and sitting down will find a way out, and we'll get back at it as soon as you've shaken yourself up and you can sit down and let's get at it.
That's excellent. I like that. Hey, what if you have one person who's always answering?
Well, you always appreciate that, and you can thank him very much or her very much and ask if someone else has a similar kind of a thought that was just echoed by Frank over there, or Betty.
So you can go and say, you know, Marianne, how would you handle that? Thanks, Jim. Marianne, what do you think about that?
It's always difficult when that happens to do that politely. I mean, I'd like to say, could you just be quiet for a while? But I don't think that's what you're looking for.
No, but you know, if we think about the 4-way test, you know, is it the truth? Okay. And this covers, well, this is another one, you know, can you just shut up? Have someone who is always talking to their neighbor. I'm sure some of you have seen Rick handle this. How does Rick handle this? It's always brilliant.
Rick just saunters over and stands right in front of him and continues the discussion as if you're not talking.
You got it.
He's done that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He's brilliant. He like hovers, like just saunters over, just hovers. It's brilliant.
I must have been in 3 classes that had good people, because I never saw him do that.
No, it's possible. You could have been. I was never, though. I was always, you know, in a troublemaking class.
Or ask the person to share what they're saying, if it's so important.
Yeah, that's not a
Tamara,
bad strategy. Yeah, that's not a bad strategy.
Tamara, the reason that you're always in one where there are troublemakers,
Yeah.
guess who the troublemaker was?
Oh, not me.
Never?
No, that's
Has
actually what I was
anyone-
implying, but Yeah.
Has anyone ever done ground rules before the start of the training session?
That's a really
I've
good
done it.
idea.
Yeah, I've done it in front of like other things I've facilitated, but I have not yet ever done it in Rotary.
Yeah,
It's
same
not a
here,
bad
because I've
idea.
done it in other places, but I've never done it at RLI.
And the only thing I would suggest, oh sorry, but the only thing I would suggest is if you do that, is that you obviously create the ground rules with the people that are in the room.
Yes.
Oh,
Right?
yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean.
And there was someone else that was just talking that I cut off. My apologies.
There used to be little cards. They were business size that had some ground rules, and they used to, when I took it, they just put one on each binder when you came into the room. And I have them still, just not with me today. That were be respectful, listen. They were really nicely done. Do we not do those anymore? I realize I haven't done this in a year.
No.
I can send them to you. They were really well done.
I remember having one of them. Yes.
It may be worth actually, as you say, doing this at the beginning of the session and have the flip chart stand in the corner.
Yep, there's nothing wrong with doing that. And again, it's whatever you and your group decide, do it. This is yours. It's not, you know, it's not. Yeah, I think it is too, because then everybody's on the same page and you've created it together and you all hold each other accountable to it. So
actually, it's very powerful because the group then will maintain control.
Sometimes you can even work somebody's name. So if somebody's talking, you can somehow work their name into something that you're talking about. You got to be pretty creative, but it can work, and it obviously gets their attention because you've just used their name.
yes. I think that's a great way in general is, you know, personalizing things. So using a name, even if it's a bad thing, like they're talking too much, it brings their attention back, you know. So good or bad, it's a good method. So what if you run out of time? Oh, of course. What if you run out of time to deliver your material? I think we talked about this earlier. You know, what if the conversation is so good, you don't want it to stop? What do you do?
Well, you can ask your group if they're willing to stay a little bit longer. We didn't quite cover everything. Are people okay with staying for a few more minutes? Get a show of hands. That's one way of doing it.
There also is, you know, and this will come with experience and with practice. If you work with the same group over and over again, it's almost like you can look at them and they know that you're going over, but they don't want the conversation to end. And you all just sort of have a bit of an agreement that you have to pick up the time somewhere else. You could, you know, because some of the modules are heavy, but some of them aren't. Corey just said put it in the parking lot or encourage Rotarians to go for fellowship afterwards. Great suggestions. You know, if the conversation is really, really good, you know, that's an excellent way to sort of say, you know, we have to move on. You're never going to be the fan if it's a heated conversation and you're kind of shutting it down. You're never going to be the favorite person, but you know, you need to do it to keep the conversation going and to respect everybody's time, which is what I'm going to have to do here pretty quickly because we are coming to the end. You know, what if you finish early? Well, it doesn't matter. It ebbs and flows. So have the flexibility to know that and just work with it. And the more you do it, the better you get. What if you make a mistake?
Own it.
Have an example?
I have an example, sure. I remember, I think I was teaching foundation everything, and I think I got the district, the DDF mixed up with, which is the district designated grants with the something other grants, I can't even remember. And it just came out and I didn't even realize I got them mixed up until I got a question, and I thought to myself, did I just mix those two things up? Did I say this when I should have said this? And everybody went yes. And so I just said my apologies. I obviously have not had enough caffeine, and corrected it and then just moved on. But I think the reason I put this in here is because I just want everybody to remember that we are all human beings, and just because we're teaching this material or facilitating this material, you know, we're Rotarians just like the people in the seats are. So if there's someone who knows more than you do that's sitting in the table, draw on their expertise. Have them share their experiences or knowledges with the group. So that's kind of it. So the next steps, meet with your team, please, 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 because it will make the day go smoother. Practice, and the 2 upcoming training sessions are on October 25th and November 2nd. I'll send emails out so people can join. But I want to thank everybody for the 2 hours. You guys made it. I hope it was helpful. I'm sure you can appreciate the challenge of trying to do something like this over this sort of format, but I hope you got something at least out of it. I hope you found it was worthwhile, and you know, that there was one tidbit that you can use. I hope everyone has a really wonderful night. Thank you again for your commitment and support. Everybody is amazing and awesome. And I wish everyone a good night. Thank you.
Good night, Tamara. Thank you.
Thanks, Tamara.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks.
Take the rest of the day off.
I just have to remember to turn this off, like stop recording. I don't know how to do